In this interview, I'm going to be talking to Deirdre Mitchell MacLean, who is the author of Women of ABpoli, and she's been writing recently about a potential revival of the Progressive Conservative Party of Alberta. So welcome to the interview, Deirdre.
Yeah, great to be here, Markham.
In this interview, we're going to be talking about why does Alberta need a revived PC party? Because I remember it from my days of living in Alberta when it was the only party, and it has just disappeared. So why does it need a new one?
It needs a new one because I'm actually blaming conservative media and the conservatives themselves for what has happened to the political landscape in Alberta. So we have essentially gone down to a two-party system as of 2015. When the NDP was elected, pretty much the Alberta Party, the PC Party, a lot of those votes, well, not the PC, but a lot of those votes kind of collapsed into the NDP. And when the PCs were swallowed up into the Wild Rose, everyone that was in the center, kind of a moderate viewpoint on politics, ended up going either NDP or stuck with the UCP. And so what we've seen is the conservatives have pushed and pushed the NDP so far left that in conservative circles, and that's really important to note, is that it's only conservative circles where there is a complete unwillingness to even consider the NDP because they aren't NDP. They are conservative. And so the successful narrative that has been built in this province is that the NDP is too far left. They are radical. They are socialists. And because they've been pushed so far left, there is a gaping hole in the center of Alberta politics.
Yeah, my take on when I moved to Calgary in 2000 from Saskatchewan, my immediate take on it was that, wow, Calgary is a lot more moderate than I thought. And in fact, I had to work really hard to find anybody that I thought of as hardcore conservatives.
Mhm.
And so I can see where there'd be a lot of attraction in the middle, particularly in the two big cities, Calgary and Edmonton.
Mhm.
So, what does this do to the NDP in that case if they're successful in reviving it?
Well, the NDP, if you recall, had a campaign last election, 2023, the Lend Us Your Vote campaign. And to me, that was their admission that they were still not palatable, sorry, to a majority of Albertans. And that was kind of their undoing, in my opinion. So they have not done the work to reach out and really make those centrist voters, those moderate former PC voters, feel comfortable and welcome in the NDP. And that has been something I've written about for how long has it been? Because I could feel it. And so the NDP, they're in trouble as well, because there are a lot of moderate conservatives, especially PC voters, who moved to the NDP because the UCP was too far right. So the NDP is in trouble here too, both the right flank of the NDP and the left flank of the UCP. It's the middle, right?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about Nenshi not being the kind of leader that a lot of people imagined after all of his years as mayor of Calgary, where he was wildly popular for a long time, and
Mhm.
he just had that hasn't translated to the provincial scene.
Yeah, not yet. And I mean, I looked at what Jason Kenney did in his bid to unite the right in the first place. And Jason Kenney drove around the entire province. He was in every town. He was stopping everywhere to meet people and, make those more connections. And I haven't gotten any sense that Naheed Nenshi has done the same.
Yeah, I remember the blue pickup campaign. He
Right?
pull a lot of miles on that old Dodge Ram.
Yeah.
Um, so if is there a chance here that the PC party is revived? We then have basically two conservative parties in Alberta and the NDP. Is there a replication then of 2015 and during the next election where there's a split vote and the NDP runs up the middle?
Absolutely. So there's a risk, 100%. People are going to decide where to put their votes, just like they always do. But being this polarization that has really been, it's a narrative creation, but it's also real. Okay, so there is this move or this lack of movement between the two parties. We saw that again in 2023, right? With the rural voters were sticking with the UCP. Edmonton was going to stick with the NDP. What was Calgary going to do? And pretty much from the day that the writs were dropped to the day of the election, there was no movement. It was so close. It was 50-50 kind of all the way through. It was going to be based on voter turnout. If you have people digging in their heels like that and refusing to move over to the other side, then you are at a stalemate. But the problem is that the UCP, with their separatist agenda right now, under Danielle Smith, is going so far right, and the NDP has been painted as so far left that the big gap is in the middle.
Um, that's very interesting because in Alberta, one of the things that I've noticed, and I've never seen this in another province, is the power of narrative. This
Mm.
divorced from data, divorced from evidence, divorced from, but ideas like the NDP are communists, which, if you know any of the New Democrats, is kind of laughable.
Right.
Or the fact that the oil and gas engine in Alberta, oil and gas economy in Alberta is the engine of the Canadian economy. Myth after myth after myth, narrative
Yeah.
after narrative after narrative drives Alberta politics. Can a revived PC party find its way into the middle and overcome some of those narratives?
It's going to be tough because there is a media bubble in Alberta that I feel like it's very different from outside of the province. So our media is conservative. Our columnists are all conservative. They got rid of everyone who kind of wasn't. Don Braid still tries to walk that line, but there was a period when Danielle Smith was in the States, with her balls and cocktails with the Republicans, and Don Braid and Rick Bell were essentially writing the exact same columns. And it's like, well, gee, Post Media, do you need two columnists if they're just saying the same thing? But we have whittled down to one perspective. So I mean, it's easier to create that narrative within the province. Plus, they've been doing it, and by they, I mean conservatives, have been pushing this narrative for generations. This isn't brand new today, but it's so built in to the Alberta identity that it makes it even easier for them to, like I said, create some of these narratives that are really damaging to the Alberta population, but they work. So,
Indeed, indeed they do. Well, Deirdre, thank you very much for this, and we'll be talking about some other Alberta politics around the PC party and in other interviews. Thank you very much.
thank you.